Chinese investment and Chinese migrants into Africa are playing a big role in shaping urbanization in this new urban space. In fact, in most places in Africa, China is playing a major role in economic and social cultural development. Most major changes are taking place in the urban setting.
In most of the sub-Saharan African countries, most of the people who live in cities live in slums. These photos are taken in 3 different times at the same place. So I think this is not very strange to Chinese culture, because we used to do that. We dismantle a lot of families and remove them, relocate them and build new houses. But is that a solution also for Kenya? I'm not sure about it, because imagine that amount of slum population.
According to the Africa Development Bank, in the year 2010, the share of the African urban population was about 36% of the total and is projected to increase to 50% and 60% by the year 2030 and 2050 respectively.
That in 5 years, we begin to say the African urban population will be larger than the total urban population in Europe or that in Latin America.
Africa then could learn from China, as China has already gone through such rapid urbanization. It is to this end that some measure of exchange programs have already been happening, with Kenyan planners working in China, an experience which they say has been transformative.
So what we ended up with was a vision for 2111, when none of us are going to be alive, I don't think. And as a planner, I was just dumbfounded by the fact that you can actually come up with a plan for 100 years. Because in Kenya we have Vision 2030, we're in 2014 now, so only 15 years away. That's what I'm accustomed to.
Proper planning is supposed to improve the lives of those who live in cities, especially bearing in mind that poorly planned cities lead to a poor quality of life and loss of culture.
We have lost the context of public space. The street is no longer what is the grammar to the city is losing its identity. Of course, we begin to see high energy consumptions. Of course, we know that the grid cannot sustain the types of models that we are beginning to talk about, like the concerts and the tattoos. And we are increasingly beginning to see cities moving into this index of what we call the unhappy city.
It's not very hard to see that China has put a lot of, let's say, investment and effort in sub-Saharan Africa and the rest of this continent. If you look at how fast urbanization is taking place in Africa, if there's one country that has experienced this kind of urbanization, meaning such speed and amount, that must be China.
Urbanization in Africa has largely been translated into rising slum establishments, increasing poverty and inequality. Proper planning, education and increased social investment in future, though, means that this picture may begin to change. Wakaba, CCTV.